Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Here and Now. This is Steve with Dr. Abraheim, and we have a lot to talk about what's happening in the world. World of struggle, world of hope, and a world full of the uncompromising attacks against freedom-loving people by U.S. and Western imperialism using its um, using Israel as its method to attack the people in Western Asia. Abraham, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm pretty wiped out. I've got the clarity of thought, but I'm pulling out of, a medical problem because the medication that had been doubled that I was taking for high blood pressure, somewhat high blood pressure, had these terrible side effects. Couldn't eat for 4 days and sort of wiped out. And I didn't know what the cause was, so I ended up taking the medication anyway, even though I was being destroyed by it. So now I'm off of that and I'm getting better. So I'm ready to go for today. Yes, I hear you have some very important material to present.
Yes, I want to share a bit of a video that's put out by the Liberation News Network. I ran across it last night, and it addresses many of the points that you raised last week in our program about this incorrect view that Israel is running the United States, and where it's coming from. I thought you did an excellent job of that. I just want to share a few more um, bits of data about that. Here we go. So we'll start here.
Oh, it's not unmuted. I'll put it on pause.
Okay, so we're gonna show the video next time. Listeners, we had a few problems with the tech issue with sound, but I would say if you can log on to the Liberation News Network and look at their recent video on Israel, it's an excellent analysis which shows the connection. First of all, the history, how Israel began, and the role of British and U.S. imperialism in supporting Israel, its attack on Nasserism, the Six-Day War, its connection to U.S. industry, how the U.S. industry controls the relationship it has with Israel, as far as Israel can't do. Israel's allowed, I think, to modify the F-35, but that's all it can do. Everything else that the United States invests in Israel, the United States controls the investment. The United States controls, for example, when Israel was going to connect with Huawei and get 5G in their country, because it was Chinese. United States told Israel, no, you can't do it, and Israel abided. So
Hmm.
yes, yes. The cybersecurity and other um, inve- industries that Israel has, those industries, the investments, the use of these technology outside of Israel is in many ways controlled by the United States. So
Hmm.
there's many connections and much power that the United States has over Israel. And basically, the Western imperialists, the Germans, and I want to say, and the Dutch are major investors in Israel also. And McKay argues that this is the reason for the Germans' attack on the pro-Palestinian demonstrators, not because Germany won't allow someone who's anti-Israel to demonstrate because it's anti-Semitic. They use that as the cover. But so the anti-Semitism cover in Germany and the West is used as a cover to attack demonstrations and protests against the ally of Germany and the U.S. in West Asia, which is Israel. That's why these demonstrators are attacked. And the same thing within the UK. All of Europe, all of Europe, all of NATO, they're all for Israel,
Mm.
and Israel is their front man and their ally in Western Asia to basically control the region and destroy any indigenous countries like Iran, for example, who want to run their country their own way. The video talks about the role of the Saudis in money laundering and bringing in the oil. It's a very interesting analysis that I haven't heard this before, and it really helped me look at how do we really then protest. It makes some suggestions at the end as far as expanding the BDS movement, and also connecting the anti-Zionist camp, the pro-Palestinian, anti-Israel campaign to Europe and to U.S. imperialism. It's not just U.S. imperialism. The European imperialism is also has blood up to its neck in Israel as well, and they
Mm.
haven't really gotten too much coverage or analysis. So I found it very good, and hopefully by next week we can get this audio thing straight and share some extras with our viewers. Thank you for the time to discuss this.
Yeah, this is very, very key because the proponents of the idea that Israel is the tail wagging the dog or whatever they say, like that, as if
Yes.
Israel had something over Trump, like it's so, so formal logic. It is all, I mean, even the idea that, Trump, took on this war, on behalf of Israel at this time because, there's something that Mossad has on him because of the Epstein files. If so, then how come it didn't happen in the first term that Trump, was the president? No, this is something else. Now he's joined by Dara Hexeth, Christian evangelical, Secretary of War, you know, uh, and to deny, that is to deny imperialism, basically, to contend that Israel is manipulating or controlling, the president of the United States of America or the Congress or the Senate or whatever, for whatever reason, is to deny imperialism itself and to claim that it's Israel, that is the um, uh, fault as a colonial settler state, is taken over the world or something like that. But I think it should be noted here who are the ones who fall into this trap of Israel control. And first and foremost is Professor Mearsheimer, German, of course, who contends that the Israel lobby controls the United States of America. Doesn't specify if it controls the United States um, on issues other than that of the Eastern, of the Western Orient and the Arab countries. But it implies that if it can control the United States on its foreign policy with respect to the Arab countries and now the Persian country, then it must certainly have the power to control the United States on every other issue as well. So the Mersheimer is, the first. Then, uh, and then there's Tucker Carlson, who is, oftentimes interviewed by formerly progressive uh, media outlets, giving him a platform to argue that, the reason why this is all wrong, the war against Iran is all wrong, is because of Israel, when in fact it's because of the United States and not because of Israel. And the problem with Israel is the United States, because Israel is not only economically controlled by the United States, but militarily as well, because that's where they get practically all of its arms, and it suffices to see that Trump can call up Netanyahu and order him to stop bombing Beirut, and he does so within minutes without a vote of the Israeli security cabinet as well. I mean, there's no sort of independence to Israel's political structure. It is merely an arm of the United States, as we mentioned previously. So there's also Max Blumenthal, who's caught up in all this, and he seems to be rather assimilated to an American Jewish character. And but I've heard this also from the brilliant, commentator Shabby, who has fallen for this as well. And and Mahmoud Odi, Palestinian from originally from Haifa, who does, wonderful sort of analyses on YouTube and gets the attention that he well deserves. But he falls for this Israeli control, thesis as well. Um, I don't know about others, like Aaron Mate. I think he sort of wobbles on the issue. And uh, do you know of others who have fallen for this trap? My memory is not working very well.
Well, the same ones that you're talking about. I was kind of surprised that Mahmoud also was I was like, wow, okay, this
Yeah.
is good because he does such good work as far as covering the war. I mean, the ones that don't surprise me are the racists, and I didn't consider him racist. What's this guy's name? This okay, no, I'll take that back on the people I'm talking about. People like well, Glenn Deason doesn't do that too much. The man on Peace Dialogue, he doesn't do it too much. I don't know the gentleman's
Ali
name.
Abunimah,
Yeah.
what does it say? I haven't seen
Uh,
him dumping on Israel alone. I
no,
think he
no,
understands
yeah,
he's an internationalist.
yeah, yeah. People like this General Colonel Douglas McGregor. He's such a racist. He is a
Uh,
racist too. He is. He really is a. He's a white supremacist. I've heard him say so things about white people, and he needs to shut up.
mm,
Um, so there, I mean, there are quite a few of them. I mean, very few. Well, those broadcasters aren't anti-imperialist. No, they're not anti-imperialist.
mm,
They may be against the war for whatever reason, but they don't really oppose imperialism. Douglas McGregor, Colonel Davis. I mean, those guys are former military guys. Even our friend Larry Johnson, who I have some serious doubts about at times.
mm,
Um, I mean, they were very happy that the soldier got captured. I don't care if he got captured at all. He shouldn't have been over there. He should have
mm,
been flying. Whatever happened to those guys, I hate to say it, man. I mean, I don't wish them no harm. But if you're flying over the country, you're attacking the country, they're gonna shoot you down. And if you pass away, you shouldn't have been there, man. You shouldn't be
yeah,
doing that. You don't have to do it. You can say, no, I'm not gonna fight this for it. I'm gonna do the jail time, or
yeah,
whatever you got to do, just do it. Anyway,
yeah,
so they were so happy that that guy was that the rescue mission was successful. I mean, they both were happy. Larry Johnson, and he's saying the same thing. So all of them really, if you think about it, I mean, all of them are they give a lot of facts, they give a lot of updates, but the analysis
yeah,
is not anti-imperialist. It's not pro self-determination for Iran. No, it isn't. No,
yeah,
it isn't. I mean, no, it's not. It's just, we have to kind of come to grips with that.
yeah.
Our broadcast, Reason to Resist, other broadcasts that are Brian Berlectic, he talks about the United U.S. imperialism being in control of this whole thing, and those are the ones people will get more out of than these other guys because in many
Mhm.
ways in my view, like it or not, they're using the war to promote their careers on YouTube.
Steve, what
Um,
about George Galloway? I seem to remember that he's into this.
I think so
Israel
too.
alone is responsible bag.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't watch Galloway as much as I used to. It's not because I don't like him. I just don't have the time to watch
Yeah,
everybody. So I select who I watch. Um, I think he's also part of it. Most of them are. It's amazing. Most of them are from this view. And to be honest, they see the funding of Israel by the United States as a way of showing that Israel controls the United States. Well, that's not true. U.S. foreign policy, U.S. money it goes to control the country.
yeah,
Doesn't mean they can control the United States.
yeah.
Israel is a non-NATO U.S. ally, as is Kenya, for example, as is
Nigeria.
Tunisia, right? Exactly, Algeria's country, right? Okay, so does that mean that they control the United States? No, the United States is in control of those other relationships, and that's one
Mhm.
thing that McKay talks about when it comes to the investments that the United States puts into the Israeli military. They control what Israel can do with those weapons, except for the F-35. One of the few places that they can make some modifications, and
Yeah,
certain software, just like during the Biden administration, when Ukraine wanted to use ATACMS and the ATACMS and other missiles from France and the UK and US to attack Russia. The U.S. had to be the one, or the French or the British had to send their soldiers to carry out the order to put the codes in. They do not give Ukraine the codes. Same thing with
yeah,
Israel. So Israel, when that war was going on, when that war began, I was
yeah.
saying Ukraine is to Russia and Israel is to the Palestinians. Oh, you're so wrong. Oh, you're so wrong. Well, that's what
Mhm.
it's coming out that way, isn't it?
Yeah, right.
Yes.
For sure. Yeah, yeah, right on. Uh-huh. Yeah, Ukraine gets all this money and military support not because it controls the United States of America, but the
No, no.
contrary.
It's the
Same thing
contrary.
with Israel. It's obvious, but people don't see that when it comes to Israel. Like all of a sudden, like, phew,
Well,
you know,
I'm wondering. I mean, is it racism toward his? I mean, what
mm,
is it? I mean, what because it I mean it. I mean, is it a form of anti-Semitism? I mean, what would make you
yeah,
think that? I mean,
yeah.
there's some reason you would think that. Like
It's a form of anti-Semitism, not the right-wing anti-Semitism, it's left-wing
no,
anti-Semitism.
yeah, yeah. Or some of the Israelis are getting over on us and they're telling you what to do. No, then that's why let me tell you when this sounds kind of crazy. When I run to a pro-Zionist demonstrator telling me to shut, I say, whoa, 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 whoa. Wait a minute, you're in the United States, dude. Okay, yeah, we give you the right to visit. You're given the right to visit. You can express your view, but you can't tell me what the fuck to do.
Yeah,
Can I go to Israel and tell you what the fuck to do? Hell no. Okay, so let's keep it real. No, because they're so violent toward people who are against them. I tell them straight. Well, I'm sorry. You can't tell me anything to do because I'm a
yeah,
citizen here. I have my
yeah.
rights, and you don't have that right. Actually, you think you do because you're a Zionist pig, but you don't. And I'm not going to let you tell me what the hell to do where I live. Okay, and I can't go to Israel and tell you what to do. Can I? No. I work with a solidarity group with the Palestinians. I can do that. So just leave me the f alone. And that's why I tell them. If people
Yeah,
don't get why it's because you can't tell me nothing, dude. You don't
yeah,
run me. Hell no. You don't.
yeah,
You don't run nothing I do, and
yeah,
they don't like that at all because everybody wants, oh, I can tell you what I'm Israeli. I don't give a fuck who the hell you are. Get the hell out of my face. And they do this. They go around the world, they tell people how to tell. They can tell people tourists. You can tell me how to run my. I wouldn't dare. Would you dare do that as a tourist? Hell no. You wouldn't even think of it. Kick you out the country. You'd be gone, right? Right. Your permit can be revoked immediately and kick your ass out. But these
yeah,
guys running around here, I don't get where this whole thing is coming from. One,
mm.
that you think Israel's in charge. It must be some issue you
Uh,
got with them being Jewish or something. Something's wrong with the analysis. Why would
I
you
can
think
I
such a
can start
thing?
to explain that. I can I
Thank
I,
you.
I was
Please
going to
do.
get into, explain, what the Zionist mentality is built on and what's wrong with it. Okay. First of all, we'll start with the definition of genocide. So,
Okay.
international law says that, and the International Criminal Court said that it is plausible, quote unquote, plausible, that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. Why? Because it's killing people who are civilians in great numbers without any sort of uh, discrimination. Just kill everyone that they can, and this is genocide. The definition of genocide was written by Lemkin, who was a Jewish guy who wanted to write a definition that would become a tool to prevent genocide. Now, on the other hand, you have the Holocaust. The Holocaust is different than genocide because it is a genocide that is accomplished, in which most of the population in the concentrations of Jewish residency in Poland, like where my family was, have been eradicated. And in my family, the percentage of uh, of deaths in the family amongst all the family members was around 92%. Same thing with my father's family in the city of Lublin. My mother came from Warsaw and the Warsaw Ghetto. So, the percentage of Palestinians who were killed in this recent genocidal war in Gaza is, let's say, 75,000 or 85,000 out of 2.3 million. So you have a percentage which is much lower, qualitatively lower than 92%. So, and overall in Europe, two-thirds of the Jewish population were killed off without a protest. Okay. So, the survivors and other Jewish people who are concerned with their relatives who are survivors, etc., or with the relatives who they've lost, consider genocide to be what the Holocaust was. And they can easily dismiss what happened in Gaza as not being a genocide because it was not accomplished. Second difference in definition of genocide is that whereas the Nazi Holocaust of the Jewish people in Europe was made with the Jewish people confined in ghettos and not allowed to leave, the Zionist genocide in Gaza had the opposite intention, and that is that they wanted the Palestinians to leave. They wanted to carry out ethnic cleansing, as it's called. They wanted to expel the Palestinian Gazans from Gaza into Egyptian Sinai. And they wanted them to be living under, in concentration camps supervised by the Egyptian military doing service on behalf of Zionism in order to maintain peace with Israel, so-called. So, so the intention of the genocide in Gaza was the opposite of the intention of the Nazi genocide of the Jewish people, who wouldn't let the Jewish people escape, with two notable exemptions. One, the agreement with the labor Zionists in Germany, who agreed to shut their mouths about the Holocaust if 60,000 of their members were allowed to leave Germany with a certain percentage of their personal wealth to be transferred to Palestine. And they did. And in Hungary, the same thing, an agreement with Eichmann, who considered himself to be a Zionist, and 1,856 Zionists or bourgeois Jewish Hungarians who could pay for a ticket on the train were allowed to leave with the Zionists keeping their mouths shut so that the Hungarian Jewish population would not, riot against being captured and put onto trains and sent to Auschwitz, which they went to willingly because they didn't know it was a death camp because they weren't told. And they weren't told even though the Zionist leader Weissmandl was told by two prisoners who had escaped from Auschwitz and came and told everybody in detail what was going on in Auschwitz in the crematorium because they knew, because they were the workers in the crematorium. So the Zionists, are like that. They're fascists, and they considered fascism to be inevitable, and might is right. And so they just went for it. And they went to do so in the name of the Jewish people, an oppressed nation, evidently. And they consider that as such, they have a right to do whatever they want. And this they call sovereignty. Okay. Now, another aspect of international law, which should be mentioned here, which is very important, is the definition of oppressor and oppressed. Hmm? The oppressed in international law was was modeled on the basis of the colonial anti-colonial revolutions that were taking place after the Second World War, and this right to national self-determination was codified by a resolution in the United Nations General Assembly on the initiative of the Soviet Union, which affirmed the right of national liberation by armed struggle. And the definition of this armed struggle is not made. There's no definition of how far armed struggle can go, as long as it is done on behalf of an oppressed nation. Now, the Marxists did not consider the Jewish people to be an oppressed nation. Marx's pamphlet in 1847 on the Jewish question, so-called, affirmed that the Jewish people do not need to be liberated as a people, but the individual Jewish people must give up being Jewish in order to liberate themselves by assimilating into the general population, which is the goal of the socialist revolution, to end the discrimination between nations by eliminating national identity. Simple solution, obviously insane and anti-Semitic, because it did not recognize the Jewish people were an oppressed nation over 2,000 years. And every year, all the Jewish communities were subjected to the pogroms at Easter time when the Christians came to attack and kill a certain number of Jewish people in order to make up for the crucifixion of Jesus Christ by the Roman Empire, not by the Jewish people, who were not in control of the country at all at that time. It was the Roman Empire. But the Roman Empire chose to blame the Jewish people nonetheless, and the Christians went for it because Christianity was built up as an ideological apparatus to justify the perpetuation of the Roman Empire. Now, if we recognize that the Jewish people have historically been an oppressed nation by the Roman Empire, by European Christianity, and the Crusades, which did not discriminate between massacring Muslims and Jewish people at the same time, even Jewish people in Europe on the way to the so-called Middle East. That is, the historic dimension of Jewish oppression of Jewish people. The Nazis, of course, tried to reverse it and say that Jewish people were oppressing Germany, and they would refer to Jewish supremacy, which ironically is similar to what a lot of leftists are now saying, including B'Tselem Israeli opposition, which uses that terminology. Now, considering the Holocaust, it is undeniable that Jewish people are an oppressed nation. They were not an oppressed nation in the Islamic countries. They were an oppressed nation in the European Christian countries. So, as an oppressed nation, all of a sudden, you have to put into a different context than what happened in Algeria, for example. In Algeria, where French colonials came and settled into the country and tried to rip it off and become like plantation owners with slaves. And the Algerians got rid of them and they retreated and went back to their home state, France. In the Zionist case of the occupation of Palestine, which is nonetheless a settler colonial enterprise, however, it is being done by an oppressed nation, not by a number of colonial settlers. It is being done by an oppressed nation. So, what do you do in that context? What guidelines are there? There's nothing in international law to cover this. What is used in international law as a justification by the Zionists is the right of national self-determination with the right of armed struggle to achieve their goals of sovereignty and independence. And this is how the Zionists justify their own colonial enterprise to their own members, you see. Now, Malcolm X, referred to the right of self-defense and the what was the expression? I'm getting a bit tired now, but the right to armed struggle, but he nuanced it to explain in context the right to armed struggle, but not necessarily the need to use armed struggle, something like that. So, but the Zionists, they don't, have any nuance. They don't have any limitations on the violence that they consider that they have a right to use, because they are arguing that they are fighting for. In fact, they even call their movement a revolutionary movement. They consider Zionism to be revolutionary, and they have left and right wings, so-called, and they consider that the national liberation struggle of the Jewish people must necessarily be oriented to establishing a state, because the state is the model of national independence and sovereignty, according to European political philosophy. And they've adopted this European model, even though it is the model that produced the Nazi nation state in the name of the Christian Germans who annihilated the German Jewish population of 1 million and the Polish Jewish population of 3.5 million, and 500,000 in Hungary, 100,000 in Ukraine, etc., etc., etc. So you see how complex this all gets. And when you're talking with a Zionist, and the simplistic, arguments that they use that, that Israel is a colonial settler state, then the Zionists, like blow up. They say, what do you mean? Are you trying to say that we are not Jewish? We are Jewish. And two, that we have a right to self-determination and a right to armed struggle. And how do they, anti-Zionists respond to that? They don't know how to respond to that. The response is that you cannot use those means which deny the very same right on the part of another people, that any right to self-determination is a reciprocal right, that there is a principle of reciprocity which is more fundamental than any right, because any right must be universal and must be equally available to all those concerned. So the Zionists ignore all this, they just, harp on their own sort of, singular identity and exclude any other identity which may encroach upon their notion of sovereignty. And it's the notion of sovereignty that is problematic, because it's a notion, first established by the monarchy of Europe, the monarchies of Europe, which considered that they had the right to kill. The definition of a king was the right, to execute any of their subjects, and all the citizens were called subjects of the king, etc. So, and this is, what the Zionists consider to be their model, the nation-state model, the monarchist model, the hierarchical model, the model of domination, the model of national domination, because they call that national independence. Hmm? You know, and if you don't know how to deal with all that, then you can get nowhere with the Zionists. And all that they end up doing is shouting to each other, each shouting the same slogan from the river to the sea. It's moronic. Okay, that's it. That's all for now.
Okay. Yeah, that's all for now. Let's pick this up in our next video because there are
Mm,
some questions I have about what you just said in relation to the Zionist connection to aggression against other countries. But
yeah,
that's for the next video,
yeah.
and we'll get the Mr. McKay's video synced up, and we will take care of that over the week. We have 6 days to do it, or one day or 2 days, and we can figure that out.
And I have a video to prepare to show all the listeners of the Israeli Black Panther movement, an interview with one of the activists, wonderful sort of interview, which exposes, what Zionism is as far as the Oriental Jewish population are concerned, which confirms, everything that we've been saying. Okay.
So we encourage all of our viewers to share, to send comments, to get engaged in struggle, to take up the fight. Because without you taking up the fight, we can't win unless we take up the fight, right? Stand up for your rights and don't forget to fight.
Right.